Well, I did something pretty unusual yesterday. I spent a whole morning on the allotment and didn't film anything. Well, the reality is, most of what I was doing I thought would be pretty boring, but I catch you up with it anyway. Show you what I've done. So this window cover on the shed has been hanging loose for some time. Since I reclad it, it didn't fit perfectly and I never got to securing it. So I've put this additional bolt in and now I can unlatch it and unbolt it and bring it down. And the other thing I did, which took me most of the morning, is give my shed a makeover. So a real good clear up. I mended the chicken guard door, which was failing to go up and down, and in the end I think I'd put the wires the wrong way around. There's a small plug and there's a black and a red, and you detach it when you change the batteries, and I think I probably put it back the wrong way. So that's fixed. The hens are all cleaned out and the shed is looking pretty good actually. I've got my kettle back in use, which is wonderful. My seeds ready for getting into their packets, and we'll be doing that sometime in the not too distant future. Kettle's boiling, switch that off. And my garlic for planting will be going out relatively soon, probably the beginning of October, and they're the best ones selected from my harvest, and a few that I've been growing on from bulbets for a couple of years now, and hopefully they'll come to maturity this coming next year. So shed's looking in good order, ready for the winter months when I'll be sneaking in here for a quick cup of tea. One of my neighbours that backs onto the plot thought I might like this stool. What a lovely thought, and it fits in here just perfectly. I've got plastic chairs outside now, but they take up a lot of room, and this stool just slots in here perfectly. So thanks to Wayne and Karen. These cheap little lights, the batteries had run out, but they're very easy to swap the batteries over, and they give such a brilliant light. And in the winter months when I come and do the chickens in the dark, they're a real asset. Mrs. Kay's asked if we can have one just inside the door, because she's a bit shorter than I am. Well, I've been giving some consideration to when to harvest the fruit on the plot, and that's apples and pears. And both can really be harvested late into October. But here, 1,000 feet above sea level, we tend to get pretty hard frosts. So I'm thinking I'm going to take the pears early. And they look very mature. They've got a pinky blush on a lot of them. And I don't think they're going to grow any larger. So I'm going to harvest those today. And pears benefit from a period of cold. So some will go in the fridge and some will go in a tray and just be stored in the garage at home. The other thing that I've been thinking about is the squash and pumpkins. Now the really mature ones, I think I'm going to harvest. They're large enough for us already, and I just don't want them to come to any harm. So I'm going to take those in and leave the others to grow on a bit. And Pepper agrees with me, as you can hear. I think she wants to be on the video. here you can see some of these pears, and they really are a good size now, and there's plenty of them. It'll be interesting to see how many I get off the tree in total. There's a fantastic group of 3 there. So we'll work our way round and see what we can harvest and get these pears somewhere safe, just in case we get that frost. It's so easy to miss them in the foliage. They just sort of tuck themselves in. And what was good was that a number of those pears just broke off when I moved them, and that's a sure sign that they're ready for picking. And I am really surprised how many I got off this small tree. A full tray full. And you can see some of these have got a lovely blush on them, and that's exactly as they were last year. And we kept them in the fridge for probably about 6 weeks, and then they were absolutely perfect. So I'm really pleased with those, and they're a really good size. Good times. Now the main thing with squash and pumpkins is that they've got a good hard outer skin, and it's best not to pick them until they formed a pretty tough skin. And then of course once you harvest them, they continue to cure, and those outer skins, they get harder, and that obviously protects them so that they're really good for storing. So as I say, I'm going to take the larger squash and pumpkins out of here just to make sure they don't get damaged by a hard frost, and I think I'll let some of the smaller ones carry on growing and see whether they come to maturity. So let's see what we can take, and I think I'm going to start with the big blue Hubbard. And there she is, beautiful. So next are the pink bananas. They really are big enough, so no problem getting these harvested. And there we are, a nice pair of pink bananas. Awesome. Now this next squash, I can't honestly say I can remember the name of it, but I've got a wonderful book about squash, and one of these winter months I'll show you my books, and this book in particular is fantastic. So we'll get him out and have a look at them. If you know the name, stick it in the comments below and you'll beat me to my book. How about that, fella? Beautiful. Now these sugar pumpkins characteristically go from green to orange when they're mature. So I've got a couple of these orange ones and I'm going to get those in now. So they're much smaller, these, but that's characteristic of these sweet cooking pumpkins, and they're the perfect pumpkins for making pumpkin pie. Again, I can't remember the name of these. I'll have to look them up, but nice and cured and the skin's nice and tough. And there's a couple of these to come in. This really is a treasure hunt. I can't think of anything I'd rather be doing on a bright, cool September day. Treasure. Now these butternut squash, they're going to take a bit more ripening, but I am going to get him out because he's quite big and he'll ripen and cure nicely when I put him indoors. Beautiful. Well, there's a good half a dozen or so developing pumpkins and squash in here, and I'm just going to let them carry on and see what we get. There's quite a few of the butternuts that are also forming, and who knows, there's certainly one in there which will come to maturity, but I'm going to leave them a bit longer. So we'll see how they get on. In the meantime, we've secured ourselves a decent crop, and that's what it's all about. Now Mrs. K has promised me a traditional Welsh meal in the form of cawl. And cawl is like a lamb stew, but it requires certain vegetables. And some of those vegetables I would normally leave till we've had a frost, because that sweetens them up. But in this instance, who can resist cawl? So I'm going to get harvesting, and I'll show you what I've got together at the end. Well, I was going to wait to the end to show you these, but there's a couple of firsts going on here. First leeks of the season, a bit early, but as I say, when you've got cawl at the end of the day, it's worth it. And the first parsnip, quite excited to have a look at those. They're looking pretty big. There we go, a nice looking leek. Okay, so let's get in amongst these parsnips and see what we've got. So I'm going to take the soil from around the surface of the parsnip, just so that I don't break it too much as I pull it out. And then we'll give it a bit of a wiggle just to loosen it. Well, he's not a giant, but he's quite nice. Let's have one more. Wow, they're really stuck in. And there we go. So a lot of roots going off in different directions, but the main bulk of the parsnip will be just great. And I'm sure we've got some massive ones in there, I can see them, but we're going to leave those and let the frost get to them before we harvest them. It seems such a shame. They look so good, but we do grow them to eat them. So I'm going to take one out, my prize celeriac. Let's see. I think I'll take one from the middle, and then they'll look good still from the side. And of course they don't really prize win, but for me they're still a prize. Beautiful. We're having celeriac mash. Good times. Oh, they smell good. Well, there's no doubt that allotments can be quite a lot of hard work, and they're pretty much an all year round effort. But the benefits outweigh the efforts, in my opinion anyway. And my harvest today, most of which will store well and take us through the winter months, is what it's all about. So we've got some pears that will go into storage, a load of pumpkins and squash, and Mrs. K will no doubt want to use some of them for display going up to Halloween. And okay, that might not be the best thing to do with vegetables, but after all, this is allotments for fun and food. And the cowl, which will be going on the cooker very soon with some celeriac mash. Good times. Well, we've enjoyed the flowers all summer, but the cosmos right now are just unbelievable. They are at their best, and that surprised me how late they come into their own, but they're beautiful. And the marigolds are exactly the same. Just a real sight now. And it's nice to have plants that phase through the seasons, and the calendula and the poppies are pretty much over, but these two flowers are just looking their best. Well, it's still bright, and I think I'm going to do a bit of photography around the plot, just for fun. I do hope you enjoyed the video today. If you did, click the subscribe button, click the like button, and if you want updates from me each time I upload a video, click the bell and select all. I do hope you have a great day. Diolch yn fawr.